But I'm a big believer in communication, people knowing the score. I'm a big sports fan. Most people that know me know I'm a huge soccer fan, and I believe you have to win this, have to know the score at all stages of the game in order to win the game. And so for me, the biggest, probably the most important process we implemented was that 10-minute 10 a.m. huddle every morning, where we get all our managers into a room and we report on the previous day's results, the month-to-date results, and what the forecast for today looks like, and also any issues that might be bubbling in the business that we need to know about.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Tater Salad Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Welcome back to another great episode of the $100 Million Mindset with my friend Alan O'Neill.
Hey, Todd.
Hey, Alan. So today what we're doing is we're going to be answering real contractor questions. I went to Facebook and asked the question, if you were sitting across the table from a gentle, kind, very handsome, some might even say sexy.
Totally agree.
Some
totally
might say
agree.
Sexy, Alan.
I would say sexy, Todd, absolutely.
Sexy plumber that scaled a business to $150 million. What would you ask him? And within an hour, I got a handful of questions. There's twice or three times as many there on my computer, but we're not going to get to all of them today. We're going to get to just a few. Yeah. So, Alan, today what we're going to talk about is processes, systems, and early implementations. There were several questions that came in on that. And the first question came in from Jonathan Bannister. I'm just going to read it to you. So it's the following. If you had to name just one process you changed over the years that made the biggest impact to your success, what would it be, Alan?
So there's so many processes, Todd, we changed because we're always looking to improve. When we were $1 million, we were looking to improve. When we were $10 million, we're always looking to improve the process. But I'm a big believer in communication, people knowing the score. I'm a big sports fan. Most people that know me know I'm a huge soccer fan, and I believe you have to win this, have to know the score at all stages of the game in order to win the game. And so for me, the biggest, probably the most important process we implemented was that 10-minute 10 a.m. huddle every morning, where we get all our managers into a room and we report on the previous day's results, the month-to-date results, and what the forecast for today looks like, and also any issues that might be bubbling in the business that we need to know about. Now, here's the key. We hire a bunch of very competitive people, and it really hurts the managers, and I know it does. It hurts the managers to sit there or stand there. They actually all stand during the meeting, but to stand there and tell all the other managers that their department is behind. They hate it.
Yeah.
So they'll want to come to that huddle and report on their department being behind. So, it's a very simple thing that I picked up from another contractor many years ago now, but we still do it every morning. Is we get together, we talk about the business. And so at any stage, there's no reason for any manager to not to know where his department stands on a daily basis, or indeed where the other departments stand on a daily basis. It also, when our managers are bonused monthly, which they all are, it also helps them to stay on track with, am I tracking towards a bonus? Am I behind? It gives a little gentle push. It's never an aggressive meeting. It's never, we don't deep dive in the meeting. But what comes out of that meeting maybe is some deep dives if a particular department is running behind.
Yeah. I love the daily huddle. I like that you implemented that every day, and I agree with you. Inside of our program, we've got this program that's for companies that are under $2 million. We call it the Growth Group.
Yeah.
It's gone through some name evolutions, right? But today we're calling it the growth group, and that's what it'll be seen on as people look at in the future. But we've got lessons in our leadership question and answer sessions where we talk about what is a daily huddle and how to implement it. And what's fascinating, because a lot of the people that are coming into that are just getting started, right? They're $400,000, $1 million businesses, and they're looking for, like, what is the little thing that I can do? And we say, hey, you know, like, one of the things that you can do is a daily huddle. And they're like, a daily huddle? Well, it's me, it's my wife, and I got one guy. And I'm like, yeah, good. Get into the habit.
Have your huddle. Yeah,
have your
absolutely.
huddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what are we going to talk about? It's like, same exact things you just said. You're going to say, hey, how did we do yesterday? What do we got lined up today? What are the bottlenecks or what are the issues? Okay, how do we fix them? Okay, cool. It's 10 minutes. It's fast. It's like, you know, when your company gets bigger, if a bottleneck or an issue pops up, you don't start tackling. At least this is my belief. You tell me what you think. I think if a bottleneck or an issue comes up in that 10-minute huddle, you don't start attacking it, because then it feels like, well, I'm not going to bring up a challenge, because if I do, Alan's going to embarrass me in front of everybody. Like you said, they already know, but you know it. And then, hey, before you get on to the next thing, let's talk about that in private. It's a chance to let them know, like, hey, I'm here for you. And so I'm 100% believer in the daily huddle also at any size. Literally, even if it's just you, what is the problem with you sitting down going, how do we do yesterday?
Right.
Where are we going today?
Todd, I'm a believer that sometimes the daily huddle needs to turn into a daily cuddle. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you have a manager that's down on himself because his department is behind, sometimes it takes an arm around the shoulder to say, look, I believe in you. I believe in your ability to get this department back on track. And so you give him his little daily cuddle and you encourage him, and he goes out there and he wins. And so, you know, the daily huddle should never be a butt chewing session. It should always be, what are the facts? What can we do to help? And if you need some encouragement, don't be afraid to turn that daily huddle into a daily cuddle. That would be my...
Well, Alan, we're going to get a beautiful still shot of you. And I'm going to be like, Robin, sometimes the daily huddle needs to be the daily cuddle.
Absolutely.
We've got to get that one out there, because I totally agree. So at any size of your business, the daily huddle. Now, one of the things, I want to see where your thought is on this, because I 100% believe in the manager daily huddle. I also believe as you get bigger, and it's good at almost any size, but I also believe in the daily install huddle. Take 10 minutes. All your installs right there on the platform before they hit their trucks, huddle. Daily service technician, huddle. Now, I know things have changed a little bit. People are remote and they're working off in different places. But one of the things like we've done over at Alliance is we figured out how to grab that critical information and do it just via Slack. It's nowhere near as cool as when you can see people face to face.
Right.
But I still think the idea of reporting is effective, even if it's not as effective as I'm seeing your eyes. So I believe in a daily huddle for your installation teams and your crews. And as you get to a certain size where that's not feasible, then you get a new team leader and they daily huddle. What do you think about that?
No, I think it's critical, Todd. Like everybody, as I said at the outset of this, everybody wants to know the score. And the fact that they're not in the office should not be a reason why you can't, fill them in. Also, when we have our weekly technician meeting, after the meeting, they huddle into groups, and the leader of that particular group, let's say it's a group of 10 plumbers, for example, they have a huddle and they talk about it on a weekly basis, like what's going on this week, what's going on next week. So I think it's important to, look, if you can't do it in person, just do it. Send it out via Slack, send it out via Teams, whatever way you can. But get the word out there and let everybody know who's winning and who's not winning. Another process that we developed, which I think was cool, was we put a big whiteboard up in the warehouse and we list all the installs for the day on it. Mm-hmm. So every install team can see what every other install team has going on that day. what that cut down was, why am I not getting the best jobs? I'm sure no one has heard that, right? I don't get the best jobs. You always get. So we put them all on the board in the warehouse. So when they walk in, they can see what they have for the day. They'll get it on their iPad, of course, through Service Titan. But I think it's just communication, right? That's all it is.
Well, I'm going to hit on something here that I believe really, really, really deeply in. I love digital, by the way. Service Titan, all those things are amazing because of the longevity of the data collection.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So like even with my personal daily planner, I know that I am missing a certain part of information because I'm not physically on paper right now. But what I also know is that because it's digital, I can go back for the last 6 years and search and
See
find
what's going
anything.
on. Yeah.
Now, I do think, like what you said, there's a whiteboard that's up there on the wall where there's a physical living thing. This is something that I just want to just reinforce the concept on, because I believe the part about digital that is potentially a downfall is that it's easy to minimize.
Right.
There's something about having a physical whiteboard or a physical piece of paper or something that is hung on the wall. It's like, look, there it is. It's always there. It's always a reminder. It is living in the space. So I think that's a wonderful thing. And, the first place that I saw that was at the University of Texas when my father-in-law was coaching there. At the end of every practice, their dietitians were logging the information digitally, but then they would take that information and they would print off every single stat from the practice. Like, what was the quarterback's completion rate from that practice?
Wow.
What was yards after contact? Everything by position, and it was posted outside of the position room of each of the players. And the coaches had it when they walked in, and it was also up there. So that level of focus is what professionals do. They do it daily. So I agree, let's have it digital, but it needs to live and breathe.
Well, I'll tell you, Todd, what cropped into my mind as you were talking about that is, in the very early days of our company, we had what we called the dot system, and you may have come across this.
I love the dot system.
So there was
Black,
a
red, and
red,
gold.
black, silver, gold,
Yes.
right? And if you were below the minimum target for the week, you got a red dot. Then you got a black for being just on target, a silver if you were a certain amount above, and gold if you were a certain amount above that. And that would live on the wall for 13 weeks for a quarter. And what was very impactful to me was when we would have an event at the shop, these plumbers were bringing their wives in and showing them their dots on the wall. And it was also a very quick visual reminder to me, as back in those days, I was the owner, service manager, and janitor. Like, I was doing it all. But if I saw 4 red dots on the wall for a particular technician, I mean, it would trigger me to go, I might want to have a talk with Leo. He's having a rough time, And so I think the visual clues are super important. And it also, as I said, we end up hiring competitive people. So no one wants to have that red dot. So you can make it as simple as a dot on the wall on a chart, or you can, put up an electronic scoreboard on a TV in your office, but get the data out there.
Yeah. Wyatt Hepworth let me and the boys from Alliance tour their place. They've toured your place too, Michael and James. Shout out Michael and James and Goran. And I don't remember, I know it wasn't a black, red, silver, gold dot, which, by the way, that still really stands out in my head. But they review everything up on the board, and I do know it was red or black. They might have had a gold, but I don't remember that. And then there's another little physical board, depending upon the room. That's a big place if you've ever been out there. But the idea of putting it out there in person goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Hey, on the topic of processes, systems, and early implementation, I'm also going to cover this other question submitted by Andrew Mitchell. What steps or procedures did you implement early in the business to be successful? And we're going to say early is, let's say under $3 million, since he didn't define that. Let's go under $3 million.
Yeah. I think, Todd, for me, early in the business, we were trying to position ourselves as a high-end provider. And so everything we did needed to reflect that. So right from day one, we were very strict on uniforms. We were very strict on truck appearance. We were very strict on maintaining your truck stock. Now, you can be strict all you want, but if you're not checking those things, they don't get done. So, we had weekly truck inspections. If I saw somebody with their shirt even sticking out a little bit, I would say it to them. And you don't want to be the squeaky wheel, but sometimes you just have to enforce your systems. And what was really interesting to me was that as you enforced the systems, eventually your employees start to police each other on the system. So they'll say, hey, you better not go in the shop with your shirt sticking out. Alan will tell you to put it back in. Or, hey, you didn't shave. Like, you might want to go in and go in the bathroom and shave before Alan sees you. And, ironically, we only start allowing beards in our shop about 3 years ago, and we were 20 years in business when we allowed it. So, I had HR coming to me going, Alan, we have to allow beards. Times have changed. We're losing people because they're not allowed to have a beard. And I was like, okay. But I was so focused on maintaining that really clean-cut image. And it was a mistake. I let it go too long. But having said that, we had an image. We wanted to protect it. And we were super, super careful about making sure we were what we said we were.
It's been said a million times, right? Which is you inspect what you expect.
Absolutely.
And it's also been said that what you are good with when you have a little bit, you'll be good with when you have a lot of. So if you've got one technician, holding them to an image standard is going to be something that will scale to 1,000 technicians. If you've got one technician and you can't hold them to an image standard, you're not going to scale it to 1,000. It's just going to get worse. And I think that's part of the thing that little companies they struggle with.
Right.
They assume in their brain, we will all be better when we are bigger. It's like, no, you will actually get bigger if you are better now.
Well, I'd like to challenge contractors out there and say, what prevents you from enforcing standards? And here's what I believe. I believe it's fear.
It is.
Right? If I say that to him, everybody will quit. Or he'll quit, and then someone else will quit. And look, I believe that people like to be managed. Now, I don't mean people need to have a finger on their throat all the time. I think people want to be managed and held to a standard. I remember having to suspend our top performer because of the condition of his truck. Bob, right? Bob still works for us. Bob won't mind me sharing this, I hope. But Bob had a tobacco chewing habit back in the day. He doesn't anymore. And I don't know what he was doing in the truck, but it was everywhere. And I went out to look at the truck, and it was disgusting. And I suspended Bob for a week, and, I fully taught myself he might quit, but he didn't. He cleaned the truck, he left, and he came back a week later, and everything was good. And I believe Bob respected the fact that we held a standard, because Bob is the ultimate professional himself. So, he had a learning process to go through. We went through it. So I think you've just got to have your standards and stick with them,
Just so people understand how good of a plumber Bob is, I'm going to give two stories. One, he has actually altered all of our sales trainings since something that I saw him do in person. I may have told you this story, but I'm with a ride-along with him, and he's bent over a counter, just sort of casually, not like unprofessionally. He's just talking to the homeowner. He's got a book, and he's flipping through these different faucets, and they're looking at them. And at a certain point, he leans up and he goes, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, tell me something. What do you love about this faucet you currently have installed?" And she laughs. She goes, "I don't love anything about it." He's like, "What do you hate about it?" And she had like 3 things that she hated about it. So he's flipping through the book and goes, "Well, which one of these would you love?" It was all emotional. And like decisions are made through emotions. So that's story number 1. Story number 2, we were doing a training at your location. Thank you for that. And one of like Bob was talking about tips. And I can remember Bob going, "No, you deny tips. You deny it once, you deny it twice. Don't deny it a third time because it's offensive to people." It's like, "Oh, no, I can't take that. No, I insist. Oh, that's very generous, but no, well, thank you. You take it the third time." I don't know if that's an official abacus thing.
It's not, but that's fine.
Yeah. Well, what is the official abacus approach?
I mean, I don't actually think we have a a written standard when it comes to tips. Like if a customer wants to tip, they can tip. I don't believe it happens very often, Todd, quite honestly. Like I've heard it maybe a handful of times in my
Do you
career.
remember in that class where one of the class members said, Bob, what's the biggest tip you ever got?
I think he got a car or something, didn't he?
He got a classic red Corvette.
Yeah, exactly.
In
yeah,
mint condition.
I do remember that. Yeah, the man just didn't want it anymore and gave it to him.
Yeah, and Bob's like, this wasn't a car that was going to need $20,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
It was garage kept, ready to roll.
Yeah, I remember that.
He's a pretty good.
That's a nice tip. Yeah.
So listen.
Our standard should be: if you get a tip, give it to the boss.
What I was going to say is like your standards should be. Here's why we keep standards, right? Here goes a guy that's dipping his chew, gets suspended for a week, tightens things up, and meets a high standard in an image. And what do you know? He gets a red Corvette as a tip. So listen, technicians, I don't know that you're ever going to get a red Corvette.
Right.
But there might be something to this, like keeping your image standards up could be a good gateway to your highest possible income.
Well, and to just for me to say how good Bob is and has been is, I would put him up against any residential plumber in the country. I think he's that good.
I agree with you. He's fantastic. All right, listeners. So you asked questions, we answered, and today we covered process systems and early implementation. We're going to do this again. So come in and check with us another time, and maybe your answer, or maybe your question, I should say, will get answered.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and Tater Salad Todd Liles.